those guys together with the South Park crew. See what we end up with. Oh man, I can't wait for them to come back. They're just out of season. That's all. But when
2020
they
has fuel.
oh man,
Imagine.
they're gonna smash shit.
Cool. What's going down today, y'all?
We're gonna have a hootenanny.
A hootenanny.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yep. We just went live on the hootenanny line
What?
just now. Yeah.
Our
Did you-
last two numbers are 6-9, right?
Yep.
That's what I remember.
Lots of 6-9s.
That's funny.
206737. Shit, I can't remember it. Someday I'll get it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No. Hold on, let me pull it up. 206-737-737-7369.
Oh,
206-737-7369. That's what it was.
Okay, I
said
was
it
like,
too
you
many
said a lot of
times. Yeah, I know.
737s.
Because as I was reading it, I said it and then I did it over. Anyways, yeah, if you guys are listening right now, you'll eventually have an opportunity to call into that number and talk to us live today about some hypertrophies.
What's
We're
a
gonna talk-
hypertrophy? Is it like a
Trying to win
super
it.
trophy?
So
Like a very large
from
trophy?
what I understand, this is my understanding from just hearing Mark talk about it.
Mhm.
When you actually reach the level of hypertrophy
Mhm.
and you get jacked, you receive a trophy,
A hypertrophy.
a hypertrophy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah.
the last level. You have to beat the boss at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to hit the boss in the eye 10 times. That's the secret.
I think I got like 6 of those when I was 19.
Yeah.
See,
I forgot. They're
Makes
my
sense.
you got a
basement.
bunch of trophies.
You probably have so
collecting
many.
dust them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. Cool.
that's okay.
What'd you guys eat yesterday?
I had a New York strip. I was talking to Mark before I left here, and I'm like, "Hey, I haven't eaten today. I feel fine. Like, should I fast the rest of the day and then maybe eat like a big breakfast?" And he's like, "No, dude, you got to go home and eat some steak." And I was like, "All right." Like, darn. So I ended up cooking up a Piedmontese New York strip. It was incredible. I had it with some potatoes, but the steak itself is just salt, and I was good to go.
That's good.
Yeah, how
That's
about
good.
you guys?
Like a regular baked potato or like the little potatoes?
No, so it was a regular potato, but like I sliced it real thin, and then I actually didn't even know this was possible. You can make scalloped potatoes in the microwave. So I just threw butter, salt, pepper. I was supposed to put some other things on there, but I just just gonna keep it basic. Ate and threw it in the microwave for like 4 or 5 minutes. It was so good.
Dude, a potato's underrated, I think.
They
It
stay
is.
hot forever.
They do. They stay hot forever, and they can fill you up pretty damn good. You
Yeah.
have a big old Piedmontese steak and a potato.
Oh
good
yeah.
to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steak and potatoes.
It's classic. No, I pulled out my cast iron after a long time yesterday and cooked up a bunch of ground beef. That ground beef is really, really good. I told you.
You couldn't find a flat iron, huh?
No, my girl's been eating all my flat irons because like she wanted some steak a few weeks ago.
Jacked
I let her
up.
try it. She's like, I like this a lot.
Mm.
And now I don't get to eat flat irons anymore.
I think that's enough for a sit down conversation of like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to move forward if you keep eating my flat iron steak. I'm not sure about how this is going to work.
Yeah, it's tough when your kids really like Piedmontese stuff because you're like, no, like you can have some other steak, but then you just feel terrible because you don't want to take away like the best thing that you have in the house. From,
Yes, you
know?
can.
I mean, you can, but you feel bad.
I forbid
Do you?
I do, and I feel bad.
They're young. They'll grow.
Yeah, I guess so. Any hoot. For more information on Piedmontese, please head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Thank you, Piedmontese, for all the support. If you guys like the show, please support them. Hit them up. Take advantage of this amazing 25% off deal.
You won't regret the meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about being jacked and tan. Talk about hypertrophy, some techniques, some things that you can do. We'll also dive into a little bit of what Nsima does with some of his clients, what to try to keep track of. You know, is it good to get body fat testing done, or is it how do you kind of just pay attention to the changes that you're going through rather than like just only like weighing yourself or only looking in the mirror. Might be other ways to productively analyze kind of what you're working towards. But kind of start out to kick things off. Um, Trying to gain muscle mass is an interesting thing because there are so many different ways to go about doing it, and there's a lot of techniques. You got like, you have drop sets, you have supersets, you have training heavy, you have frequency can even help with hypertrophy. There's just a lot of different techniques out there. You can even utilize some tempo training. You can do some isometrics. But if you break it all down and you really start to look at it and analyze it more and understand how most people got big, most of the time there's a good history of trying to lift some heavy weights with some compound movements. It's not the only way. We know a lot of people that haven't really explored bench, squat, deadlift all that much, and they still got big. There's a lot of bodybuilders. Sometimes you might see like a Kai Green or something like that using like 30-pound dumbbells doing curls or something along those lines. But those guys, they have a history of strength. And I don't know if, how much bodybuilding stuff people have looked up before, but like you'll see Kai Green, he's like, oh yeah, I love to train light. And then he's doing 405 for reps on an incline.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely just like effortless. Or he's squatting 315 for 20 reps and it's just perfect form. His heels are close together. He's, putting his butt on the ground basically. And so these guys, while they may not really challenge themselves with the most amount of weight that they can use, they're challenging their muscles by going through a range of motion and not only going through an entire range of motion, but also staying connected to that weight the entire time and keeping themselves under tension. They actually become like a professional at that. So I think that might be a good place to start here today is maybe talking a little bit about like some time under tension and Nsima maybe sharing some techniques that you utilize when you're hitting the gym. Because when I watch you train, it's like you're always sticking to the basics. I see like pull-ups, and if you're doing like a isolation exercise or doing like a curl or something like that, you're usually going pretty heavy. You're usually doing like hammer curls. The list of things I've seen you do is like I've seen you bench squat, deadlift, bent over row, overhead press, pull-ups, curls. I haven't really seen you like I've actually never seen you do like a cable crossover. I've never seen you do like, and I'm sure you've done those things, but what has been effective for you because you're pretty damn big.
I'd say the big thing is first off keeping it simple. So obviously my training right now, especially since I've been focusing more on jujitsu, I don't train with as much volume as I did in the past. But when I look at and when I see the people that come and work with me, and I look at the perspective of themselves, a lot of them are strength athletes. Like they've been focusing on trying to get stronger, which is great. And even a lot of them who've tried to get bigger over time, when I ask them to send me their training cycles that they've been doing, when I see it, it's not that much volume. One thing I notice is that, like when you mentioned Kai Green and a lot of these bodybuilders that they have a base of strength, right? They're still typically not as strong as like your top level powerlifter that's even lighter than they are and has less muscle than they do. What it seems and what tends to happen is that when you're an individual who's focusing on gaining strength is so fun and it's so addictive, and lifting heavy weights is just so exciting that you get so wrapped into that what happens is that a majority of your training sessions are so focused on going heavy on your bench or doing a lot of deadlift volume or a lot of squat volume that after you do those movements, you're just too damn tired to do anything really in terms of pushing, accessory work like your cable crossovers, like your hamstring curls, like your leg presses and lunges. You're just too tired to do it. So you'll end up doing a few of those movements for a very short period of time and then leaving the gym. And that's what all your training sessions turn into. But when a lifter backs off of that a little bit, so you can still do those movements, but you're not beating yourself up as much, you're going very moderate. You might finish your squat session and be like, I can do so much more. But now you have energy to go do leg presses, lunging, Bulgarian split squats, hamstring curls, GHRs. You have that much energy to do all those movements. you're going to first off gain a lot more muscle over time because you'll get more training volume into those small muscle groups. But also, what tends to happen too is you might even gain strength faster because you're not beating yourself as much underneath your compound movements. So it's almost like if you want to gain muscle, a good amount of muscle, while also gaining strength, you kind of want to become a jack of all trades. And like when you look at bodybuilders, they tend to be pretty big and pretty strong. They're like the jack of all trades. And the powerlifter individual is like the master of strength. But you'll see jack powerlifters at the top, but a lot of powerlifters you see, they don't look like bodybuilders.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the central nervous system. When you're powerlifting, you're trying to enhance the central nervous system. You're trying to give your body a message that we're going to be explosive and we're going to be strong. We're trying to prime the central nervous system. We're not really necessarily doing things that promote hypertrophy, although in some cases, depending on the person, depending on their like fiber type and all these different things, they can factor in. And that's why sometimes you'll see someone who is a collegiate wrestler who has a really jacked neck, and you see another guy who just doesn't have a really jacked neck. Or sometimes you might see somebody in jiu-jitsu who's like super lean, and you might see somebody else who's been practicing the same thing for just as long, and they don't have nearly the same, muscle definition and stuff. We're all a little bit different when it comes to building muscle and how our body ends up looking. Obviously, nutrition is a huge factor in the whole thing, but when you only power lift, you most likely you're going to have some ability to grow, but as Nsima is pointing out here, you're going to be good at that. You're going to be good at the thing that you spend the most time doing. And a lot of times with powerlifting, even people that are like, oh yeah, I do my accessories, they're usually like they're an afterthought. They're secondary, they're third, they're fourth, they're fifth. Sometimes they're, just kind of tossed in there at the end of a workout, and they might not be enough to really promote muscle growth. And also, I would say they could also be like non-productive in a way, because I don't think it's great to do too much in one given training session. And you could be like, think about it. You could have taxed your central nervous system, you could have taxed your joints, and you could have you could have smashed your muscular system as well. Like that's a lot. And the next day, how are you going to recover from that? How are you going to repair from that? So maybe a better idea might be to, occasionally switch things up. Maybe for a few weeks you do something. I think this is one of those things where somebody says, well, Jay Cutler does leg extensions before he squats, so that's what I should do. And that would just be like, well, yeah, sometimes. Like Jay Cutler utilized that, I think, throughout his entire career, and it worked really well for him. But if I would imagine, Nsima, if a 15-year-old kid came up to you and said, I want really big legs, you might suggest something different. Why would you perhaps suggest something different?
Instead of leg extensions before squats,
right?
That'd be too fatiguing. I mean, even if we were to think about trying to do some leg extensions before squats, like our legs would be fried. If we're trying to go heavy, we wouldn't be able to go as heavy because our quads are fried.
Yeah, it's going to limit the amount of weight that you can do. So again, these are like sometimes situations. Like that might be good to do sometimes. So you got to keep in mind too, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, these people that we see, Kai Green, and so on. These are people that are professionals. They really know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time. So it doesn't mean that you don't do that. It doesn't mean you can't be inspired by that. It doesn't mean you can't try that. That will elicit a lot of muscle stimulation. And there's actually a huge advantage of once you have gained some strength, what a wonderful thing to do before you squat. If you normally need to squat 600 pounds for 5 reps just to get any sort of, to get any sort of real stimulus, well then, yeah, doing the leg extensions beforehand might force you to use a little bit less weight, more reasonable weight. And now we're not beating up all aspects of the body all in one day. We're solely focusing on hypertrophy, and you can get more out of using less weight. So there's a lot of different methodologies. There's a lot of different things to utilize.
Yeah, like for example, in the Jay Cutler situation, the thing is Jay Cutler's probably already so strong in the squat that doing leg extensions, it's not necessarily for pre-fatigue, but it's to allow him to activate his quads better when he's squatting with a moderate load. because you imagine he's not going to be squatting with a super heavy load. Well, super heavy for him after doing leg
He's still
extensions.
squatting 5 plates.
He's still squatting 5
for
plates.
10 reps or so.
But he could do substantially more than that if he didn't do leg extensions.
Right.
But he's trying to get the most out of quad activation before doing that. So if you really wanted to do that for yourself, you could. It could be actually really beneficial, but you have to make sure that the load you're doing on leg extensions isn't crazy heavy. You don't do too many reps where your quads feel like they're on fire and you can't squat. And you can do that, take it to the squat and get a similar response, but you just got to be smart about how you do it. It could be a really cool thing to do.
What about muscle soreness? How, I think you've mentioned like nowadays you don't really get very sore, but what was it like for you when you were younger, transitioning from, being a fairly thin soccer player to being 240 or whatever you are nowadays?
Yeah. So initially, like whenever anybody starts training, I think that we all kind of go a little bit overboard, especially when you're starting with bodybuilding. Because I didn't start with I've always done bodybuilding type work since I was a kid. But when that became my only focus and I wasn't able to play soccer anymore, I just went ham with a lot of volume. And every session I
And
kind of
then
felt
maybe
beat
even
up.
just stopping soccer probably helped with growth as well.
It helped. Yeah, it helped with recovery, helped with growth because I wasn't running around and doing cardio all day long. Um, but I think what every lifter and what I had to figure out for myself was how can I get done with this session, had a good workout, progress, but be able to come in and progress on something else the next day. That's the big thing. I I had to learn how to stop leaving every session feeling like absolute dog shit. So I could come in and get another training session in. And I think that's also where spreading out your training volume becomes really important because it was only when I was really younger that I did like the typical bro type split. And there's nothing wrong with it, but the bro split's like, chest, back, legs. You just pretty much do every body part once a week. But as we've talked about multiple times on this show, you should be able to maybe hit each body part if you have the time in your schedule twice a week. So what that allowed me to do was to get in more training, but I also had to limit, like, for example, if I was doing an upper day, I had to do enough volume so that next day I could do lower. And then the next day I could do a push, but not be so fatigued for my first upper day that I can't progress on that push day. So it's figuring out how you can spread out your training volume throughout the week so you can hit your muscle groups multiple times. I think that's one of the things that helped me to grow even more as I progressed. Hitting each body part as much as I could. Once it's recovered, hit it again. Once it's recovered, hit it again. But again, not doing too much on one day that it would take too long for it to recover so that I could hit it again.
What if you are sore? Do you skip that day, or do you just say like, oh, I should probably wait an extra? Say your quads are crazy, so like really sore from the last training session. Do you go in and hit them again because it's just time to hit them again, or do you kind of pass on that?
If that's the day where I need to hit quads, it's two options. You could either wait till another day or just go lighter on that day.
Right.
My usual decision is just to go a little bit lighter on that day. So not pushed as much, maybe just back off of the load that I'm going to use, still get some type of stimulus in, but use it as a session to allow for some recovery. Because you know that if you do feel sore, it is sometimes beneficial to go in and get some blood in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though you're tired, but not like look to hit any PRs, not look to do anything crazy. Just get blood in the muscle group, get it moving, and it'll help you actually recover a little bit faster. So I typically don't skip unless I'm feeling like I didn't get enough sleep. It's not going to be a good training session. It's not going to be productive. If you know you're not going to be productive, then it's probably a good idea to do something else.
I think just a really simple thing people can do, like if you have a body part that you want to bring up, you got to, you're just like, man, I got skinny legs, or I got, a puny biceps, or whatever it is. You can prioritize those things. You can maybe, put those in the front of the week. Like whenever your week starts for you, you can put that in the front of your week. So you can do that, on Monday, and you can make sure that you hit that hard again on, maybe Thursday or something like that. You can also put a priority towards doing things in the beginning of a workout, or trying to have a, like let's just say somebody wanted to get bigger arms. We hear that all the time, right? If you want to get bigger arms and you're not currently training heavy, I would suggest that you go heavier. If you're somebody who's already going heavy and your arms still don't seem to be growing, I would suggest just moving into a little bit more bodybuilding stuff and play around with that and see how that helps. But there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this stuff. The way that I work out nowadays is almost the complete opposite of the way I used to work out. I do a lot of isolation stuff first because I don't really care to have the heavy weights in my hands. Like bench press might be the last thing I do. Deadlift might be the last thing I do. Squats might be second or third, kind of depending on how I feel. But it acts as a good warm up if I don't want it to take away from the squat, but I still want to get some good leg activation. I might do a couple sets of glute ham raises or a couple sets of leg curls or something like that. And then I get a little bit of work done. I get some good muscle stimulation going in the hamstrings, and then I move on to the squat. But it just depends on like where you're at in your like lifting career. There's a lot of different. It's kind of neat because there's a lot of different ways to do it. I would say most people that have like a massive like body part, like huge biceps or huge shoulders or huge legs, almost always, almost in all cases, it's like they quote unquote overtrained. They did a lot of training for a lot of years and maybe made some mistakes along the way, and then they learn that maybe they didn't need to go quite as crazy. But a lot of times when you see somebody with good leg development, they're like, "Oh yeah, I was a soccer like your legs are huge." I was like, "Oh yeah, I was a soccer player." It's like, okay, well that, that makes sense. You were running around a lot, so your legs are. And then as you got into strength training, the cool thing about having like a sports background is your ability to recover from not only like session to session, but from set to set and from rep to rep, which is why we encourage people to work on some GPP type of stuff or some sort of cardiovascular training so that you can recover from workouts. Some of the bodybuilders I've worked out with, a lot of them are like professionals, and their work capacity is unbelievable. Like I mean, they're able to get through a lot of work in a condensed period of time where you're like, whoa, okay, this is what it's like. This is how these guys train. It's not 3 sets of 10, and you're not there just kind of chilling and flexing in the mirror. It's a lot of hard ass work is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we just opened up the fan line. So I see some questions that are happening right now in the chat room. Now is an opportunity to actually go ahead and ask these questions. The number is 206-737-7369. But while we wait for those the fan lines to get full, I actually had a question for you guys. Like I had told you guys in the past, like, well, I told you that I couldn't get abs, and then you're like, no, you're a different person now, and everybody can get them. I was super skinny, was skinny fat. Turns out I had a lot more body fat than we all kind of assumed. But can somebody go from being like a more skinny type person to just saying, okay, I'm going to just go ahead and start adding muscle? Like that's the goal. But can they do that without like going through the fat stage? Like can a lean person remain lean but still just start developing more muscle to look jacked? Because I feel like for me, I did have to go through the long period of trying to add as much muscle as I could, regardless of what like I look like. My body composition was still like kind of skinny fat, but I actually started developing some size, and I feel like I needed to do that in order to be able to shred down to actually show something. Whereas before, I would have just showed skeleton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go for it.
It just depends on how patient you are, how patient a person is, because it's hard, especially like because when I was a teenager, I was watching YouTube videos on getting bigger, right? And you always see like how you got to go on a dreamer bulk, just like eat and train and eat and train, and it's really hard not to go on that route. I think anybody can get bigger without putting on a crazy amount of body fat, but the thing is, when any guy or woman, if any man or woman wants to get bigger, it's really hard to be patient with yourself, to not just see the scale go up. Because, I mean, let's be real. When we're getting bigger, we're not just, just training. We're also looking at the scale. Like if you start off at 160, you're really keen on seeing 185 as soon as possible. You're really keen on seeing that 2 in front of 2 zeros as soon as possible. So it's rare that you're going to see someone take the time to get stronger, because the biggest thing, I think, actually, not just getting stronger through the compound movements like squat, bench, deadlift, but getting stronger with all the movements you're doing in the gym, your bicep curls, your dumbbell, chest press, all those things. If you're getting stronger with those movements over time, and you're like eating to gain size, so you're not eating an excessive amount of food but a good amount of food, you'll get bigger without gaining a crazy amount of body fat. But the thing is, everyone wants speed. So to answer your question, it's possible, but it's not generally as fun for most people.
Right. A lot of bodybuilders, and the reason why we're going to reference bodybuilders a lot is that no one does it better than bodybuilders in terms of gaining muscle mass. They have acquired the most amount of muscle mass with the least amount of body fat. And we get questions all the time, can I gain muscle and lose fat at the same time? And the answer is, yeah, you can do that, but it's a really long road. There's also the other option, which is steroids, right? They can help get you there faster because it can kind of amplify everything. It puts you in an anabolic state and makes everything easier. But for the sake of this podcast, let's just assume that you're not going there. We're not encouraging anybody to do that. What we're encouraging people to do is to work through the process and figure out a way to get it done, the best way that you can. And what I think is that when it comes to, looking at bodybuilders and dissecting how they've done it over the years, it kind of just comes back to some very common principles over and over again, where they have a certain amount of time under tension per each set. They are normally I would say it could be anywhere from like an 8 to 12 rep range, but obviously they do use lower reps from occasion. And higher, sometimes 15, sometimes 20. They just do a tremendous amount of work, and they just kind of blitz the muscle, and over a long period of time they learn, exactly how that's supposed to feel. And it takes a long time. It takes years. But with your question specifically about, I think it depends a lot on how lean somebody is to begin with and what their metabolism is like. From our experiences together, you haven't seemed like you're that interested in food. Like you're not crazy about food.
Correct. Yeah.
Like you eat, but you're not like nutty about food. If you were nutty about food and you were still really thin, then I think that's the ultimate. That's like the crescendo of like finding someone who's probably going to potentially be a great bodybuilder. Like just without as much effort as the next guy, because they have a quick metabolism already, and as they start to eat like a bodybuilder, a lot of that is just going to go towards supporting more muscle mass. A lot of guys you ever see a picture of like someone like a Bradley Martin? Bradley's huge. He's got, I mean, his arms look like they're like 20 inches or something nowadays. He looks great. Or even just like the transformation that Tom made. He was able to make a transformation super quick. Tom is, by nature, I mean, if we were to have a picture of Tom in 8th grade, he's like probably rail thin. He's probably super, super skinny. So I think that for bodybuilding purposes, that is the greatest. An ectomorph is a really good really good place to start.
Cool. You guys ready to take a call?
We're ready.
All right. Let's see what we get. Hello.
Hello.
Ooh, that's a good
Hello?
echo. What's going on, man?
Hey, is this Andrew?
This is Andrew. You are currently on Mark Bell's Power Project call-in show.
Yo.
Oh shit. Oh, sorry.
That's all good. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm a little out of breath, man. I'm in the middle of my workout right now.
Attaboy.
Yeah. So honestly, first off, I just got to say thank you to you guys for everything that you do. I've been listening for about a year, and I feel like I've learned more from your show than I've learned anywhere else. And
awesome.
So I got to say thank you first and foremost.
Nice.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. So I'll try to keep it short because I know you probably got a lot of people trying to call in. So I recently decided that I was going to do a physique show. I've been working out for a long time, but I've never really done anything with it. but I've worked so hard to gain strength and, just feel stronger and everything else that goes with it. And so, Mark, I know that you obviously worked for a long time on strength more than anything else. So how did you abandon that ego, to just be strong in order to build muscle, in order to change your direction and, be productive with your new goal of bodybuilding and everything else?
Yeah, I find that this is really hard for people to do. It's very difficult for people to shift gears away from something that they feel is them. But as much as I loved powerlifting, I just always felt like I'm not just a power lifter, that I have a lot of other things that I do. Powerlifting it was something that I did. It doesn't really define who I am. I'm a dad, I'm a husband. Those things to me are of more importance. So when it came time to shift gears and when it came time to move away from that, it wasn't that hard. I mean, I still like to lift heavy weights. I still like to slap some plates on the bar and load it up here and there. But I was just done. I did it for 30 years, and I did it. I also, I guess, something that I can feel good about is I feel like I maxed it out. I feel like I did it to the best of my ability. I don't think, looking back at it, I could probably nitpick it a little bit and say like, oh, I think there's a couple things I could have maybe done a little bit better, especially just because now I have more knowledge. But I really I gave it my all. I put everything I had into it, and so for me, it felt like it was time to shift gears. For other people that maybe are newer, that are trying just to shift away from it, maybe because they just don't like it as much anymore, or they're uninterested, or maybe they got injured or whatever. I would say that, just follow what you're most interested in. Don't worry about, thinking that you deadlifted 500 pounds, and don't think that that has anything to do with who you are. That's just something that you did. It's an accomplishment that you did, and you should be proud of it. But there's really not a lot of great reasons. And I've had other top level powerlifters tell me this. The only time to be as strong as possible is for a powerlifting meet. That's the only time that mattered. That's what it means to be a powerlifter. Otherwise, if you're not in season to like hit a certain lift, or you just no longer care about it, then don't care about it, and move on and move into something else, and put everything that you have into that. Like if the goal is now to be lean, don't look in the rearview mirror. Just keep looking ahead of what you can do today to make the right steps towards that.
Awesome. I'm sorry, one more quick question. So when you switched over to bodybuilding, did you abandon the compound lifts for the most part and start honing in the different muscles, or are you still keeping those as a part of your routine?
I think bodybuilding has a lot to do with your nutrition. That was the biggest change. I think, there's a lot of bodybuilders that squat, bench, and deadlift, or use variations of them, maybe even through like, some machines and things like that. But yeah, squat, bench, and deadlift was still part of it. It was just more like it was more of a change in nutrition than it was anything else. Small changes to the workout, just like less rest and stuff like that. But those are all techniques, and those are all things I've been utilizing even when I was a powerlifter.
Also, let me tell you this real quick, man. As you're getting ready to gear up for a show, you want to remember that you're trying to hold on to as much muscle as possible. What tends to happen when an individual starts thinking about doing a show is they're like, okay, I'm going to drop as much body fat as possible. Most people start, I'll do a lot of high reps, low weight. They drop strength in terms of their compounds, and they'll stop doing their compounds altogether. The thing is, it's that it's inevitable that you're going to lose strength during your prep. You're going to be losing quite a bit of weight, quite a bit of fat, but you want to keep as much stimulus as possible to all of those muscle groups. So in your case, should you drop your compound movements? No, probably not. But what you should do is you should focus on still doing those movements and getting in enough stimulus. So instead of going to 90% in a training session, maybe you go to 70 or 75%, and then you do all the rest of your movements. But your goal is to, if you can try to slowly hold on to strength, and as you're getting weaker, just train right there where like close to where your edge is, you're going to be stimulating enough muscle that you're holding on to as much muscle as you can as you're dropping body fat. But if you were to stop doing strength altogether or stop training for strength altogether, and you lowered your training volume and things got a lot easier, you're going to be losing a lot of muscle as you're losing body fat, and you're not going to be as big by the time you hit the stage. So keep that in mind.
Awesome, guys. I appreciate the info. Again, like you're great, and you deserve all the recognition that you guys get. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. That was awesome. He's getting his workout in too.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
Yeah, mid-workout.
Yeah.
You know, people that are, going to call in, keep in mind that, when we do pick up, that you're on the air. We don't have a screening. We don't have a way to screen you at the moment with the technology that we're using here today. Also, keep in mind that Nsima. Whoa. Oh, yeah, a blowout over there. Also, keep in mind that Nsima has done a lot of bodybuilding and has competed in powerlifting as well. How many shows did you do in bodybuilding?
About 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah,
So that's a pretty good amount. I did one show.
I did one photo shoot.
There you go.
All right, let's see who we got next. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Aaron from Oklahoma.
Aaron, what's going down, man?
Oh, well, I just wanted to call in and just say thank you guys for, all you do. Between you guys and Stan Efferding and Matt Winning, I've learned a lot.
Awesome, man.
Just about self-development and getting big and getting strong. So
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got any questions for the crew?
So my question, I work full-time and I eat right, and I've gotten real consistent, and I have a very good split that works for my schedule. It's 4 days a week. I've run into some problems with programming in the sense that, I try to do kind of a heavy day one week and then a kind of a speed day, kind of the conjugate style the next week. But I'm having a hard time figuring out how to kind of work in some kind of periodization and progression with that kind of system and my split. And I'm not really working towards a peak or a meet. I want to do something sustainable. But what could you guys suggest that I do to kind of keep things, keep breaking PRs, but also not kill my shoulders?
Well, it kind of sounds like you're maybe mixing some programs together, and it might be wise for a period of time just to try to to stick more to one concept and work on that for a little bit and see where it takes you. Because like if you're doing conjugate stuff and you're utilizing some speed training and some max effort work, it's a specific program that kind of needs to be done a specific way. And if you're going to utilize periodization, like the West Side Barbell method, it's not a great method to utilize along with periodization. Like trying to consistently do a regular bench, a regular squat, and a regular deadlift. The program is based around the idea of doing alternate exercises while still improving strength in some maybe areas where you're weak, so that when you go back to the main movement, that you are stronger for that movement. So I would just consider, really trying to follow along with one style and one way of programming, because in the West Side method, they really don't use periodization.
Okay. Well, yeah, that helps a lot.
What are some of your thoughts?
I've even looked at, starting strength or, 5-3-1 to kind of just do some kind of linear periodization just to see if, that would help, break through some PRs where maybe the speed training is kind of holding me back a little bit or something, so.
I don't know what your program looks like, but there's nothing wrong with speed training. You said you had a good split setup. You said it's.
I can tell you, it's Monday is left bicep, Tuesday is right bicep, Wednesday is left bicep, and I just keep switching off.
That's amazing.
I was like, wait, what?
I'm sorry.
But
no, I get a full body, and it's, I hit each body part twice in a week, and they still have 3 days in between to recover. But I'm just trying to keep getting stronger.
I would say like so just normally, just so you understand programming in general, a really great way to look at it is that you always want to prepare yourself for like whatever it is that you're about to do next. What you're about to do next has to align well with a particular goal, a particular destination, something that you're trying to get to. So having a particular goal would be a good place to start. And then you maybe work your way backwards into like, how am I going to get to this goal? And if you think about like where you're going to start, um, you may have to, bring up some conditioning. You may have to start with some reps and some sets and some, kind of higher volume. You hear a lot of athletes use those terms. Use some higher volume and then move yourself through higher intensities, and then you should be able to, be lined up with your goal. If you don't know what any of that means, then that can be a little bit difficult. But in short, it just means you're going to do more reps and more sets in the beginning, and as you get closer to your goal, you're going to lower the reps, you're going to lower the sets, the intensity of the workouts, the weight that you use in the workouts is going to increase. So why don't you just maybe tell us what exactly is your goal, and then we can kind of help you work towards that.
I mean, like I said, I'm not really preparing for any meets, but I do want to continue getting stronger as efficiently as I can without, being, overly obsessed with the little minute details. I kind of like the idea of, I guess like Ed Cohn, would do like 3 months power training and then 3 months hypertrophy, and kind of switching off that way.
Just remember, you can't hit a target that you can't see. So we need a target. Like what
Right.
What would you like to do? You want to bench 315? You want to deadlift 500 pounds?
Yeah, so I guess I could do like every 3 months, I could aim for 110% of my last PR,
Just trying to hit some PRs.
Okay.
Yeah, basically just keep getting stronger.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay, so you said you have 2 full body days during the week. What are the other 2 days?
Well, so I do on Mondays I'll do like back and deadlifts. I mix those 2 days so I get some legs and back. And then Tuesday I'll do like tricep and shoulder. And then I take a break Wednesday. Thursday would be squats and accessories, and then Friday would be the like
when you say accessories, you mean leg accessories
and triceps. So I kind of get legs twice a week, and I kind of get upper bodies and push pull twice a week, and it works really well with my schedule. But I want to try and figure out a way that I can. I like the split, but I need to be, I guess, keeping track of my sets and reps and weights a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that's one thing, keeping track of the sets, reps, and weights better. You said that on 1 week you do power training or you go heavier, and then the other week you do speed training. So let me ask you this. When you say you go heavier, are you going heavy on all those movements, deadlifts, bench, and squat on 1 week?
Not so well. Yes. And that also becomes an issue because by the time Friday rolls around, I'm kind of worn out from the other days.
Okay. So I think a really good idea is
I'll go 85, 90% on the heavy lifts, but then the accessories I'll do, I'll aim for 12 to 15 reps sometimes, just to get a bunch of blood flow and volume.
Okay. So a good idea to try is this. Okay. So right now you have your speed work set on, let's say week 1 is those heavy days, 85 to 90%. And then week 2 is all your speed work for all these movements. Instead of doing that, how about on week 1, right? You kind of mix in your speed days and your power days each week. Okay. So you have your day 1 where you have your deadlifts. Instead of on your first week having that be a power day, have your deadlift day 1 be a speed day. Okay. Your next day, you said you do triceps and shoulders, which is just accessory work. And then your squat day on that same week, instead of having that be also a speed day, that'll be your power day. Okay. And then your bench session at the end of the week, you can do that as either a power or speed day, whatever you want. But the next week, the week 1, you did deadlifts to speed. The next week, do deadlifts as power. Because what's going to happen now is your first week, you did deadlifts to speed. that's not going to fatigue you so much that when your squat day comes in the same week, you'll be able to hit a good training session and it's heavy. But now the next week, you'll instead of deadlift speed, it'll be deadlift power. Instead of squat power, it'll be squat speed, which will allow you to recover for whatever bench session you have at the end of the week. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you be able to recover better from session to session. Because if you're doing really tough power days, deadlift, squat, and bench on the same week, you're going to be so fatigued from that week, and then your next week is going to be just speed, but you're never going to get that much out of each of your power weeks. Now, if you if you mix it up a little bit and have deadlift speed week 1, deadlift power week 2, deadlift speed week 3, deadlift power week 4, and then the same thing for your squats, squat power week 1, squat speed week 2, squat power week 3, squat speed week 4, you'll be able to recover from session to session a little bit better, and you'll probably be able to gain strength for a longer period of time. But it seems like right now you're messing yourself up for 1 week, recovering on a week, messing yourself up again on another week, and not being that productive with all the time you're spending in the gym. That's something you could try out.
Right.
Yeah, and what this leans you towards this leans you more towards a Westside Barbell program. And also keep in mind, one way that Westside Barbell gets away with lifting the way that they do is that they just don't do a ton of deadlifts from the floor. And when they say they don't do a ton of deadlifts from the floor, I guess that the only thing that excludes is speed work. So most of their deadlifting that they do that's like strenuous is just the speed work that's from the floor, but all the other stuff is like, deadlifting out of a rack or deadlifting, doing like a reverse band deadlift, like variations of a deadlift, all the way to the point where it might not even be a particular deadlift. It might just be an exercise that can assist with the deadlift. Like every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks or so, Louis would just tell people just not to deadlift at all, just to take off from it completely.
Yep.
Because the deadlift is a weird animal, you can build up a work capacity for it and you can train it frequently like any other lift and you can get better at it, but you can also train your deadlift through just blasting your core and blasting your hamstrings and your quads and squatting and things of that nature that will all be supportive towards increasing that deadlift.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Anyway,
so
try
what
that
I've gathered
stuff
here
out.
is I need to mix up, in the same week, do some heavy and some speed stuff on those same muscle groups.
Yep.
And then I need to finally bite the bullet and keep a good log of sets and reps and weight, and be that nerd with the notebook in the gym. I think that would help me a little bit.
Yeah, and you don't have to keep track of everything, but the more that you keep track of, probably the better. But just keep track of the main stuff. Keep track of the stuff that you really want to improve on. Otherwise, you might just be like writing stuff down just for writing stuff down's sake. And on top of writing things down, one of the main things with journaling, and this is like something that people don't do enough of, you want to be able to reference that journal often. You want to be able to go back. So make sure when you are writing it down that it's stuff that you're going to understand. Maybe even like, when something works well and feels good, put a little smiley face next to it or put a little star next to it or something, just so you're like, yeah, that workout was great. And a lot of times when a workout is great, you can run it again. You can run the same play. You can do it again. So, don't think that it always has to be like so switched up or you got to, confuse the muscles and all this other stuff. Anyway, man, thank you for calling in. We really appreciate you being a fan and being a listener. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. And I just got the gangster wrist wraps, and they helped a lot. So
awesome,
man. Thank you so much.
All right.
Oh, my bad. I hate doing that.
I wanted to point out, there's some people that you can follow too that have great information, and one of them would be, I think somebody I know that's like one of the best at kind of toggling back and forth between some bodybuilding and some powerlifting is Nick Wright. That guy gets in some damn good shape, and he's strong. He came here and he squatted 600 pounds. He's a strong guy, and when he came here and squatted 600 pounds, he looked good. His arms were big, his quads were big, but like he wasn't lean. And then like a month later, he throws up some pictures. I'm like, oh, these are probably old pictures, and I was wrong. They were pictures from Now Times. I was like, damn, like he just switched. He switches it up a lot. And he's somebody that I think he's over dieted before and got himself really weak, and I think he's overtrained before. So he's got a good grasp on it.
I think definitely I'll say this. If you're someone who you want to get strong and you want to get big, but like this guy was saying, you're not really aiming for meat, right? Or maybe you're not really heading for a bodybuilding show. Uh what tends like what I'm hearing a lot is like a lot of those people, they still go really heavy really often, right? It's almost like they're trying to train for meat. If you want to get big and you want to get strong and you're not heading for a competition, back off of the percentages of your compound movements.
Yeah, is there really a reason for it?
Is there? Yeah, because
Yeah.
now you're taking away from the amount of size you can gain, but you can still train decently heavy and still get a lot of good accessory volume in, so that it'll help you. It can help you get bigger, and that allow you to be more productive. But you got to kind of, it takes a lot to stop lifting crazy heavy all the time.
Cool.
When's the last time you? I mean, you you went for a heavy deadlift in here, 3-4 months ago,
Yeah.
but like I haven't seen you try anything all that heavy aside from that in a long time, in like a year.
No, I haven't lifted like that. I mean, a few months before that, I probably did something around 6 something, but I haven't done anything within like 6 or 5 since then.
Right.
So, like, yeah.
And then in terms of like when you do your assistance exercises, how are you treating those? Are you trying to go like heavy on them, or is it more like I'm going to go by feel? I'm going to do some pull-ups today, and yeah, it'd be cool to hang some weights around my waist, but I'm not. We'll just see where it goes.
For me personally, I'll do one top heavy set, and then the rest of the sets will probably be something that's doing a little bit of tempo or adding something like that in, so that I can get a lot out of using lighter weights. So for example, with like a dumbbell chest press, I'll maybe go up to a heavy set of 6 and then come back and do really slow tempo work.
Right.
So I can get a lot out of
I love
using
that
lighter
kind of
weights.
stuff too, because yeah, earlier in the workout you're going to be stronger. Early in the workout you're going to feel better. So once you're warmed up, once you're kind of ready to go and you got your body ready to go, that's when you can hit that, 500-pound deadlift for a set of 3, and then you could do some back off sets with 365 or 405 to help build up the hamstrings and glutes, stuff like that.
Are you guys ready for another call?
Sure thing.
Let's go. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm in PA.
Oh,
My
no.
name is Cameron.
Rough connection. What was your name?
Cameron Mousley.
All right, man. What you got? Let's see if this works out. Hold on.
All right, I just wanted to say that you guys are freaking awesome. I've been a follower since you guys last year, and I was like really interested in what you guys are all about. I like how you're all like about kind of like getting into like the whole freaking fitness thing and like getting jacked and stuff like that. The jacked and tan thing, that's so freaking cool. And Mark, with the freaking powerlifting background, that's so freaking cool. Like me, like I'm not like necessarily a powerlifter or bodybuilder. Like I started getting into lifting when I was like 15 and stuff like that, like because I'm a swimmer, and I figured I'd get ahead of the competition by starting to lift and stuff like that. And I gotta say, like it really improved me. Like I got first at our conference like last year and the year before that, and like I'm going into my senior year now of college, and it's freaking awesome. But like I really enjoy your guys' podcast so much, and I just wanted to call and just tell you guys how much I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I go in the DMs and Mark and Nsima, and like I freaking just feel more connected to you guys than I do with a lot of other like fitness channels. And I just wanted to say thank you guys, because it's freaking awesome. And I really appreciate you doing everything you guys do, because I've learned so much, and I know a lot of my friends have and stuff. Like, it's just freaking awesome. And I just want to say thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Cameron, and congrats on that conference win, dude. You're awesome.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, man, it's freaking awesome. But you guys are so cool. I just wanted to know, like, when you guys are like lifting and stuff like that, and like, I know you guys kind of talk about it every now and then on the podcast and stuff like that. Like when you guys like lose motivation sometimes and get back into it and just kind of like will yourself, and like I freaking love that shit. And, you know, it's awesome. But like, what do you guys like do to like keep yourselves motivated? Cause like, I know it can be hard, especially during the quarantine and stuff like that. Like I'm over here in PA and like, I came back like in the middle of my semester and, you know, it was rough because like I don't have my gym open. I'm working out at home. I'm like riding a bike like every day, doing pull-ups, push-ups, trying to keep it like, you know, simple but like effective. But it's so hard because it's like, you know, I don't really have weights to expose. Like now I'm starting to go to my uncle's to work out because he's got a weight set. But like, I just want to know, what did you guys do to just keep yourselves going? You know what I mean?
You do exactly what you just said. You find a way. You said you went to your uncle's house and lifted some weights in his garage. Like that's what it's all about right there.
Yeah.
And you know, when it comes to motivation, I think that people are looking for uh, like they're looking for something external to try to motivate them. They're like waiting. They're like waiting for something to hit them, and or they're also just like forcing themselves to do things. And what I've learned is that I don't have to force myself to do stuff. There's no reason for me to force myself to do stuff. If I'm just interested enough, I'll just do it. And so I try to just lean into like whatever I feel like doing. Like if I feel like only walking for the day, I'll just walk. If I feel good enough to run, I'll run. If I want to go lift, I'll lift. And I've been trying to do that with everything, but then also like within reason, because you could fall off and you could say, oh well, I feel like having ice cream, and you can kind of
Yeah.
slide downhill. But I know what's in my best interest, and so for me, what's been really helpful is to just try to attach yourself to just doing one thing. So if you're thinking about exercise and you're thinking about motivation for exercise, just attach yourself to that principle and that idea of like, hey, you know what? I'm supposed to do one thing every day because I know that when I do one thing of exercise every single day, that it's good for my body, mind, and spirit. It's not just good for your looks. It's not just good for being strong. It's good for it's in your best interest to do so, and it can help with your mental health and help with everything else. And motivation builds motivation. You know, once you start heading in a direction, it's easier to continue in that direction. And Nsima, how's it work out for you, buddy?
Well, for me at this point, whenever I find it hard to work out, actually, you know what? I think the big thing for most people is just doing it long enough where it doesn't become an arduous experience. Because when I was thinking about what he just asked, even during quarantine, I never really found it. I mean, it's not like kettlebell work is different than the barbell, but I still just went and I did it because it was a habit at that point. It was a habit to exercise each day. And when I don't, personally for me, when I don't exercise each day now, it feels like I missed a big part of the day or something. There's just something not right. Like I have to do something that makes me sweat, that makes me expend a good amount of energy, or I literally just don't feel good about myself. So I think, man, you said you've been working out since you've been 15, you swim a lot. I think just making sure that that's something that it's like brushing your teeth, just making sure that it's something you do every day or as much as you can, even if it's a really, really easy workout. I think a lot of people can get something from that. But yeah, I think for me, it's a habit.
It's one of those Yoda things, you know. You don't want to try. You want to do. You know, try not is going to be the answer. Like how do you, if you can eliminate motivation, then you'll never ever in your life have a problem again with going to the gym. I know that sounds weird, but like when you just take motivation out of it, you don't need a big speech. You know, that will help.
Like, I don't know. I think that's so cool, man. Like, I just saw you guys' podcast going live, and I was like, damn, I'm just gonna try it. And like, damn, that's freaking cool. You guys answer. Like, I feel like that. You know, you guys are just so like cool because like last year, like man, like I would do this thing where I would kind of like not necessarily like I would like kind of like cut in the summer, like not like shred, but like try to get leaner, try to get the lower abs showing and shit. And like it was it was hard, but I really enjoyed it. I was a little bit run down because my diet it was weird. You know, I was eating good, but like I feel like I could have ate a little more. But man, like I started listening to guys' podcast and it was like freaking cool, like the whole carnivore thing. Because like I started watching like Bigger, Stronger, Faster when I was like a kid, and like that's how I got introduced to you, Mark, and your brother. Like it's just freaking awesome. Your whole family's like so cool. And then like I watch your podcast, and you guys have so much like personality on your podcast. Like, don't get me wrong, Joe Rogan is like freaking, you know, I guess like you could consider him like one of the best guys like on podcasts right now. But like I gotta be honest, like you guys have something different, and it's cool because, in my opinion, I think you guys are right at his level because you guys are really interactive with
It's
fans
official.
and, like,
It's official. We'll
There
take
it
it.
is.
We take it.
cool, you know what I
We're
mean?
better than Rogan.
Like I feel like that, you know. I feel like fitness should be a thing that, you know, no matter whatever like race, color, you know, whatever all that stuff, you know, you can always like be like, hey, you work out, that's freaking cool, you know, and like that just starts a conversation that I feel like people just need to have nowadays. You know what I mean? It sucks because, you know, it's like, you know, you look in the media and it's like, you know, seems like we're more divided than ever. And, you know, especially with all like the gyms closed around me, it's like, you know, damn, like, because like, you know, it's just, the quarantine really took down that sense of community, I feel like, a little bit, you know, which I kind of get, you know, no one wants to get it, you know what I mean, at the time. And then people are arguing and stuff like that if it works, or, you know, should you wear the mask and should you, and it just create a little more divide. And then the George Floyd thing happened, and that sucked, you know what I mean? It really does. And like, you know, I just wanted to get this show running again so we can really just all like come over and have something common unite behind. And I feel like you guys really do that, man. Like you guys have been there since like, you know, day one of the quarantine, talking about it, you know, contesting the arguments. And it's just like you guys give so much information to me, and I'm sure many other fans and other listeners that you guys have. And like, I know, Mark, you're always worried about losing followers on Instagram and listening sometimes. And I'm just like, bro, like you don't gotta worry about that, because the real ones that are gonna be staying are the real ones. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need those bots or whatever the heck you need on Instagram, because I really, you know, you guys are just so freaking nice, man, genuine, you know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, it sucks because when people create like the divide, you know, in fitness, like the CrossFit versus bodybuilding, powerlifting versus bodybuilding, and all that stuff, it's just like, why can't we just do all of it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, you know, we can try new things, and I feel like, you know, you shouldn't be judged for, you know, trying a certain aspect of your training that maybe isn't necessarily going to help you get aesthetically good or like athletically good, but it's going to be good for your mental health. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to change it up a little bit and like, you know, try to like contest your ideas. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people just need to hear like it's okay to do CrossFit, it's okay to do bodybuilding or powerlifting or, you know, whatever you want. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, you're still working out.
We appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Joe Rogan status.
We got it. It's official. Like
It's
that.
officially official now.
That was the board, and they just said that better than
Yeah.
Rogan.
All right, I'm gonna close up the lines right now. We actually had a interesting question from somebody overseas. They're in the UK, so right now with our call-in show, it has to be a US number, and it can't be like a Google Voice number or some like burner line or something. So maybe that's why he couldn't get in. But Tom Newberry, it's a really complicated question, but what he's essentially getting at, he's talking about his central nervous system. He doesn't want to overtrain, so he has light days and heavy days. And this is more of a cumulative thing. So on his light days, he'll do more reps at lighter weight, but the total weight that he lifts is more than that of on the heavy days where he does less reps. So does that have a huge impact on his CNS? Like, is he close to overtraining on the light days, even though it's supposed to be his light day? He's actually still lifting more
training volume.
Yeah. So is that okay? Does he need to pull back even further, or is he kind of on the right path?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, your intensity is lower, so therefore you shouldn't be really doing that much to your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is going to be, you know, more, I guess, like taxed from, you know, getting into that 80, 85, 90, 100% range. It's not that it doesn't get worked at all, you know, when you do sets of 10 and sets of 12 and stuff like that. But from a bodybuilding, like bodybuilding just feels different. It feels way different than powerlifting. Powerlifting is really weird. You feel like somebody took like your soul away from you or something.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding is like you kind of have a little bit of a pump all the time, and you're also like sore. And powerlifting is just like, I don't know, you get out of the car slow, you just move around like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might move super fast in the gym. Like I remember when I was squatting like 6 and 7 plates, I could squat 7 plates, faster than somebody could get up off their couch. They could try as hard as they wanted. They could get up off their couch as fast as they wanted to, and I was able to just boom in a blink of an eye be able to explode up with those weights. But how I moved later on, the rest of the day, the rest of the week, 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, I was fucked up.
Yeah, man.
So the bodybuilding stuff and getting in more work via the higher reps shouldn't really have the same negative impact on your nervous system.
Yeah. So if you're only concerned about your nervous system, the day that you're doing more training volume, right, where you're doing the lighter reps, but more training volume, that's not going to tax your CNS much, but you will be physically fatigued because you got to. This is why I said bodybuilders are just the great jack of all trades athletes. They adapt to training with a lot of training volume, like he does on those days, but they also adapt to training heavy sometimes, right? So it doesn't hit them as hard. So I would say that's fine what you're doing. But when Jesse Burdick was here, we mentioned this, and I think I want to mention it to you too. You seem to have a good knowledge of training, so you're probably already doing this, but make sure that every 4 to 5 weeks, you give yourself a 1 to 2 week deload. Because if you don't do that and you're continuing to train this way, you'll drive yourself into just the ground over a few weeks, and you just won't be able to recover well. You just really won't be able to be productive. So I hope you're not missing out on that. But yeah, it doesn't seem bad. I mean, it all depends on how it's set up and it seems sound.
We've talked so much about nutrition on this podcast, many, many, many times, but it's important that we just mention briefly that, it's important that you're fueling yourself enough, especially when you're trying to gain muscle mass. We talk a lot about sleep. You're going to have to adopt some good sleep hygiene if you care. And especially if you want to try to lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time, which is the kind of the unicorn of fitness. It's not an easy thing to acquire. You want to try to make sure you get proper sleep, make sure you're getting nutrition in. Just in short, maybe start out with 1 gram per pound of body weight in terms of your protein. You can kind of pick carbohydrates or you can pick fat as your fuel source. You could even cut it down the middle and split up some of your calories between the two of them. Protein is not much of an energy source, but it is a rebuilding resource for your body. I would just say maybe start out with about 1 gram per pound of body weight of carbohydrates and maybe go about half of that or so with fats, and that should be a decent starting point. You can kind of move those things around. So if you weighed 200 pounds, you might have about 100 grams of fat. It might be best if it was a little bit lower than that. But 100 would be the top end, about 200 grams of protein and about 200 grams of carbohydrates. If you wanted to, you could scale the protein up a little bit and back the fat down. That would probably land you like in a perfect spot where you would be able to gain muscle, lose fat at the same time. You might have to implement some cardio just to get a little extra activity, the 10-minute walks, or you might need something a little bit more regimented than that. But in our experience, you can do those things at the same time. It just is a longer route. It's like we're talking about months over weeks. Like it might be like in 6 months from now, you might be able to lose a couple pounds of body fat, and you might be able to gain a pound or two of muscle if you're a newer lifter. But in a lot of cases, I think people are thinking that they're gonna lose 20 pounds and put on like 3 to 5 pounds of muscle, and that's going to be harder. That can be done, but now we're talking about let's be more realistic, that you can do that in a year, or you can do that in like 8 months or something like that. And Nsima has some good practices that he utilizes with his clients to help them track, not just he's gathering as much information as he can to make sure that these people are really making progress on the diet. It's not, he's not just, using fat calipers that he's cheating with each time to tell his clients that, oh, you were 25%, now you're 8, he has them, taking measurements, weighing themselves. So I'll turn it over to him to mention some of these things.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me about like tracking body fat, and it's really inconsistent in terms of tracking body fat. First off, like, I can't track these people. They live all over the place. But the best things that I think an individual can do for themselves is, I think number one is actually taking measurements.
And it's free.
It's free. Yeah, go on Amazon. They have those measurement things where you can put it around the arm, and it makes it really easy to self-measure. But the cool thing about measurements, especially when you're gaining or when you're losing, is that you can really see what's going on. I think a good place to really make sure that you measure it is your waist area. So you're like your belly 2 inches above and 2 inches below. When you're
2
trying
inches above your
2 inches
belly
above
button?
your belly button, and 2
Okay.
inches below your belly
Got it.
button. And something that I try to do with people is to make sure that even as we're gaining or trying to put on muscle, we don't want to see that area go up much, if at all. And a lot of the times I'm actually looking for that area to slowly go down. Because if that area is going down, you tend to accumulate fat there, but that's going down as you're gaining weight slowly, that means you're doing the unicorn. You're losing body fat as you're gaining a little bit of muscle over time. It's a slow process. It takes a lot of patience, but it's a good determiner if that's going down, that you're actually not putting on body fat as you're getting stronger. The other areas that I have people take measurements are the chest, right arm, left arm, 2 inches above, the belly, 2 inches below, hips, right thigh, and left thigh. And
Is
I
there
have
a
people do that
difference?
weekly.
Is there a difference if it's a female?
No,
Just because sometimes we tend to store body fat a little differently than females.
waist area still. Waist area is still a good place to keep an eye on. The hips at that point, you also want to pay attention to, because a lot of the women I work with don't want to lose too much there.
Right.
But the waist is still a good determinant if they're trying to gain, and if you're trying to lose, obviously, like it's kind of the same deal. But when you're losing, you want to focus on not losing too much size in the areas like the right thigh, the left thigh, the arms, the chest. You want to see the big areas going down, typically the waist area, and potentially you might see some go down in the hips, because a lot of people also hold a lot of body fat there. So I think taking measurements weekly is a really good thing to do. If the scale doesn't cause you too much anxiety, it's a really good idea
The
to
scale
weigh
really
yourself.
bothers some people, right?
It does. It bothers a lot of people, because if they don't see the scale moving as fast in one direction or the other, it demotivates them and makes them less compliant to what
So
they need to
if
do.
you have someone like that, you just say, hey, don't worry about it.
I just have them not weigh themselves, or maybe we'll do one weigh in a week on the same day. But the measurements is what I really try to have people focus on, because the measurements over a long period of time will really tell a good story. Like this guy I was talking to you about, he's like 44. He is the same weight now than when we started about like 7 months ago, 192, right? We fluctuated. We got up to like 196 and back to 192. But the thing about him is that he's substantially stronger. He looks substantially different. The waist area has gone down about 4 inches in total. His legs are bigger and he's much stronger. But the thing is like I've been having him focus on performance. Like, even though his goal was to lose body fat, instead of focusing on losing body fat, we focused on getting stronger. If you can, and to what Mark was mentioning, the whole unicorn thing, losing body fat and gaining muscle over time. I think for a lot of people, it comes down to, like Andrew also mentioned, Stan Efferding talked about owning your weight, right? If you're, 15, 16% body fat, if you focus on staying the same weight for 7 or 8 months while getting stronger in the gym, you're going to look substantially different in 7 to 8 months. Definitely better if you focus on gaining strength and increasing your performance in the gym, because like naturally you're just going to be gaining a little bit of muscle because of the increased performance, and because you're holding on to that weight, you're going to slowly be losing a little bit of body fat as your performance increases, and you're just going to look better. So it's a slow process, and it's not something that a lot of people like to do. But after a while, you're just like, damn, I'm looking substantially better at the same weight. It's something that you can do. So measurements, weighing yourself each day if the scale doesn't cause you anxiety, and taking pictures, I'd say once a month, because you're going to be taking pictures of yourself more than that. But you'll be able to see a big difference with the same pictures, same lighting. Every 4 weeks, you'll be able to see a good difference in those pictures.
Yeah. How about monitoring their sleep?
Have people monitor their sleep. It's important. But like monitoring your sleep, it's something you should do, not from like, I guess, the aspect of tracking the way you look, but just making sure that you perform well. If you're like, that's why I like this Whoop thing, because it just like it helps me keep track of like how I'm sleeping every single night, and then it can help me optimize that.
Yeah.
So
And then how does that work? Like, doesn't it tell you like you got a good amount of sleep, you can perform really well today? Is that part of like your plan or whatever?
this pays attention to like heart rate variability, which if it's really, really low, that shows that you're not really like, and I can actually tell on the days that my HRV is low, I'm actually not feeling as good physically. And the days where it's higher, actually like I'm not paying attention to that, I actually do feel better.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But yeah, you do want to pay attention to your sleep, because obviously if you're not sleeping well consistently, your performance is going to be crap. If your performance is not good, that's going to affect your body fat loss and all of that over time.
It gives you like a sleep score type of thing, right?
It gives you a sleep score.
I know that like when I was doing my bodybuilding show, I got to a point where the sleep was really hard, and there was like, I was just, I was wrecked.
When you get leaner, that happens.
Yeah, I was just like, pretty much killing myself. But then as it got closer to the show and as I started to feel it more, I'm like, I really need to pay. I know I keep telling myself I need to sleep, and I still just wasn't doing it. And then I finally committed to it, and I can't remember the exact amount of weight. It was like 5 pounds or maybe 7 pounds. It just completely disappeared off of me and didn't come back. It wasn't only like a shift in water weight. I mean, I'm sure some of it was water, but it was within about a 2-week time period. And it was just like I got a lot better sleep. And I remember even one specific day where I woke up in the morning, probably like 4 o'clock or something. But this was a day that I didn't have to train with Mike. And, I weighed myself and I went back to bed, and I stayed in bed until maybe like 7 or something like that. And when I woke up, I was like 3 or 4 pounds lighter and veins everywhere. Like it was wild. And I was just like, wow, like that's the fucking power. That's the power of sleep right there. And obviously I'm not saying that, sleeping is going to like burn fat necessarily, but you do burn fat, and a lot of restorative things happen when you sleep. That's why we need sleep. That's why all living things have to like either sleep or like, recharge in some way. Even things that aren't alive. It's like all this shit needs like batteries or some sort of electricity. If it doesn't need sleep, it needs to be fucking plugged in. Otherwise it just doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah. Body fat loss happens so much more consistently when you're getting quality sleep each night. And it's, I was thinking about this recently because I've been having some stress, some undue stress for the past, I don't know, 2.5 weeks, and it's fucked my sleep up so much. And like as I track it on this, I'm just like, God dang, man. When the like you got to just make sure you gotta chill out.
Well, like when I was prepping for my photo shoot, it was the same thing. I'm like in Nsima, like, dude, I'm like taking so many steps backwards. Like, what's going on? Like, we're getting so close, and you're just like, what was your sleep like? It was okay. You're like, what was it really like? All right, I got like maybe 6 hours last night. And you're like, okay, you need to get some sleep. And again, I've said this before, but I'm like, I know how important sleep is, but when I could physically see a difference in my body, like from one day to the next, was like, whoa, like, okay. Then it was super like motivating to like, okay, it's time to go to bed. But it took that for me to, again, somebody who understands, we talk about on this podcast all the time, and I understand it, and I still was like, it didn't hit me about how important it was until I could actually see it in the mirror from one day to the next, how much of an impact it made on my body.
Yeah.
So that stuff was huge.
This is from our boy Rhino, who actually sent over 2 chunks of literature on like weighing yourself. So, to weigh yourself or not to weigh yourself, people always ask that question. I'm sure that, for as many papers as we can pull up that are for weighing yourself, we can probably pull up as many that are against it, right? And they could be for various reasons, but there is some evidence, at least there's some evidence based on some pretty good research that weighing yourself frequently is beneficial, and that the avoidance of the scale, if you think about, let's say that you're weighing yourself, I don't know, like twice a week for a little while, and you were doing pretty good, and you're like, wow, I lost 10 pounds, I feel great. what would be the thing that would lead you to start to avoid the scale again? It would probably be that you're like, I really I haven't been sticking to my plan, so I'm going to stop weighing myself. Right. And it's like, that's the action that probably starts first. It could also be that you are sticking to the plan. You get a little frustrated because you might be seeing some various, just maybe you reached a little bit of a plateau, and that can be really frustrating. Or if you're a female, some hormonal things are going on, and you see, sometimes people will kind of, they'll be like, man, was so pissed off. I weighed myself this morning and I'm up 2 pounds. And you're like, hey, 2 pounds, like, relax, like, everything's going to be okay. It's easy for somebody to say that's not in the moment, for the person that's not doing the work.
Yeah.
But it can be really demoralizing and frustrating for the person that is doing the work. But what I would encourage you to do is it would encourage people to weigh themselves and to weigh yourself frequently enough to where you even know what you weigh without getting on a scale. I think that's important. I think that's how much, you don't have to be obsessed with it, but I think that you should weigh yourself enough to be like, yep, like I can tell what I weigh kind of in the morning. I weighed 239 this morning, and I thought I weighed 238. So I was like, close enough, right? Each day is going to be a little different depending on what you eat. But if you start to learn a lot about that, then you can start to, you can make better choices. I end up making better decisions sometimes. I'm like, I already ate, that earlier today, so I'm not going to, I ate a lot earlier, so I'm good. Or, I have this coming up, so I can, it just helps you manage it. But anyway, the conclusion based on some of these studies on, frequently weighing yourself, it says, the conclusions are based on consistency and evidence reviewed frequent self-weighing. At the very least, seems to be a good predictor of moderate weight loss and less weight regain, which I think that is massive. Weight loss is one thing, but avoiding, gaining your weight back is huge. The avoidance of the initial weight gain in adults, and he listed out a study that he referenced. But I found it to be really useful for me. And again, I think Nsima pointed out some other great resources, some other things that you can do that are just different, because maybe you do like get super freaked out by it. And if you do, what a great idea just to not do it for a little while.
Yeah. I think a big thing that also, I mean, it kind of falls in line with measurements, but a great thing that I think people underestimate is just the way clothes fit. I find that that's a powerful thing when you're trying, like, let's say you're going from bigger to being smaller. Let's say you're not seeing the scale move as fast as you'd like, but your pants are way looser, and like that shirt that used to hug your belly isn't hugging your belly as much. Like, those are things like you got to count these wins. Like you always say, Mark, like, figure out where your wins are, figure out where you're winning. Even if it's small, you got to figure that, you got to understand that. I think a big thing too, and I hear this a lot, whenever, like when you look at yourself every day, right? And you're trying to get bigger, you don't see it much. But when somebody's like, yo, you're looking bigger, right? That is actually, that's a very honest assessment. Even though they're not trying to do that, that's a very honest assessment of the changes that you're making, even though you don't see it. When someone says, wow, you're looking bigger, or you're looking more muscular, and you've only gained like a pound or two, that's a big deal. And you need it. That's one of those ways that you can actually see those results. So when people tell me like, oh yeah, a friend of mine said I got bigger, but I don't see it, I'm like, yo, your friend's right. Like, your friend is, like, they can actually see that difference because they don't see you every day. You're biased.
A good example might be you after jujitsu practice. Probably if somebody saw you then, because you actually lost a bunch of weight, you lost some water weight, maybe you lost 4 pounds, or depending on how hot it is and how hard the practice was. Somebody be like, oh my God, you're huge, but you literally weigh less than you did when you started practice.
Yeah.
You're just hot, and you just sweated a lot of it out,
Yeah.
And once people can see more definition, then they think you're getting more muscular. Like, what are you doing different? You're like, I lost 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Awesome, fellas.
I think we hit up a lot of good points, just to kind of reiterate, there's a lot of different ways to stimulate muscle growth, to get some good old muscle mass going. Training heavy is one way to do it. Time under tension. There's so many different things that fall under time under tension. There's so many different methods. If anyone has never really implemented or tried some rest pause methods. I really like that method a lot, and there's many different ways to do rest pause, but basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to handle a heavier weight and still do drop sets or even repeat sets with a similar weight. All that you do is you just rest a little bit in between the sets. So let's just say that you were doing some it's kind of easier to do on like a regular bench press than it is to do with dumbbells, because you got to keep bringing the dumbbells up and down. At least with a regular bar, you can just rack it each time. But let's say that you can bench around, I don't know, maybe let's say you can bench 300 pounds. If you can bench 300 pounds, you might want to try 250 pounds or 275 pounds for some reps, and maybe you can do about like 7 to 9 reps with that weight, which would sound like you would be like way stronger than a 300-pound bench, probably 250 or 235 or something like that, depending on the person. You can get 2 or 3 reps a clip, and you can do 3 sets of it. You can do like three sets of it, and each time you'll do 3 reps, rack it, rest about 15 seconds. 3 reps, rest about 15 seconds. The advantage there is just that you're able to use more weight. You were able to use more weight for more reps than you would normally be able to do. Another form of doing stuff like that is forced reps. Having somebody kind of guide you through some reps. Again, your best bench is 300. You have 275 on, and you tell your spotter, hey, I'm going to go for like 5-6 reps. I know that I'm probably going to die at like the third one, but I want you to kind of bump me through and guide me through a couple extra reps. Some people like to do eccentric work where they bring the weights down really slow. I've never really been a fan of I've liked drop sets and things like that, but I like tempo work, but not moving around too slow, just more controlled than anything else. That's what I found to be felt the best to me, because when I've done eccentric work before, and it just hurts. It just makes you really, really sore. If you do like a 6-second eccentric with a really heavy weight, it's just like impossible to recover from.
It's great for deadlifts.
It is absolutely brutal on something like it, and it can, there you go. It can benefit your strength a ton too. There's just so many different ways of doing this stuff. You can pause in the middle of a rep. I do that sometimes with bicep movements. I might kind of get a little curl going, hold it for a second, kind of flex, maybe go back down, then go all the way through, or do like 1.5 reps. I mean, just the list of things that you can do is endless, and that's what makes training so fun.
Yeah.
Andrew trains with me here and there, and pretty frequently, and it's always so different. A method we've been utilizing lately is starting and finishing with the same exercise. That's a lot of fun. Give it a try. Try to start your workout with leg extensions and end your workout with leg extensions, or start your workout with a squat and end your workout with a squat. It's brutal. Maybe on the first round of squats, maybe you do 3 sets of 5, but maybe when you come back to the squat again, maybe you do 3 sets of 15. Like you'll just be torched. But it's fun. And it ends up being like kind of new every time. And Nsima was saying that he likes to push heavy. And then, once he pushes heavy, maybe he does a set of 6 with a bunch of weight wrapped around him for some pull-ups. And then you go into doing something a little lighter.
Yeah. I think one thing that you mentioned there that I think a lot of people can get a lot from, there's the guy that just called. He was asking, how to build up that motivation to go train in the gym, right? As much as some people may talk about, this training is optimal, or, if you set up your percentages this way, this is optimal. I get it. It's great. You want to set up your training in a smart way where you can recover and make progress, right? But make your training fun and something that you're going to look forward to. And if that means you want to start with a movement and end with a movement, because that actually sounds really freaking fun, you can find a way to do that in a way that's going to allow you to make progress, but also will motivate you to go into the gym because it's new and it's exciting. I think that's something that a lot of us underestimate when we're just looking to make progress. We kind of put enjoyment on the back burner and only focus on optimizing, right? And that's not always the best thing. I don't think that's the best thing to do all the time.
Yeah, and what makes the like starting and finishing with the same workout is like, so we did dips yesterday. I'm not fantastic at dips, but like I can do whatever rep sets that Mark is doing, and then it's good.
Triceps were popping, by the way.
Thank you.
Yep.
My triceps or your triceps?
Your triceps.
They're really sore right now. So we did a whole chest workout, and then we finished with dips again, and I could only do jump dips, like, right, I'm down, and then I had to jump up, and then slowly, it was tough. I've never
Kipping dips.
I've never been able to get to that point. Like I usually don't have the patience to burn out all the way that bad, but it like fast forwarded
you got
everything.
lit up yesterday because
That
like when we went
killed
to the bench press, we were using the Cadillac bar. On the Andrew was toast, man.
It was so good though.
It's like we're gonna put a 5 on each side for you here, Andrew.
Yeah, I was like, can we turn on like the anti-gravity, because this shit's impossible for me. I was absolutely crushed, but like if you can think of something to where like you maybe don't have the patience to do to burn out like that, that's a really good way to do it. And man, like I said, I am sore right now.
I got to hang out with my buddy Mark Uyama. He's been a strength coach in the NFL for 14 years, and one of the things that he's always done is he's always had a day that's just for the guys, just a day. He says, "Man, hey, do what you want, like this." So each training session, he's got it real mapped out. Hey, we're going to go through these stretches. We're going to go through these drills, and you got to, use this machine and do things this way. On like a Friday, he'll say, it's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Like, you do your thing. And they just always crank whatever music they want. They're dancing, they're lifting, they're having fun. And, they're able to gravitate towards whatever exercises they like. And why not do that for yourself? Why not be like, hey, fuck all this stuff, man. I'm just going to go have some fun. Even if you're on a specific program and you look at it one day and you're like, man, that's a lot of work. I just don't feel like doing that. Don't feel bad about it. There's going to be more time. You have more time to continue to work on yourself. You
have a lifetime.
You have a lifetime. It's a form of self-improvement, right? Just getting yourself to the gym, period. So just fucking relax a little bit and get it in there and have some fun with it. That's how you're gonna outlast everybody. That's how you're gonna be doing this for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And it doesn't matter, what your genetic background is. It doesn't matter where you started. It matters that you're able to hold on to this for a long period of time, because you'll pass up everybody. You'll pass up every single person that has stopped. It doesn't matter what what they were able to, what they had before. If they stopped, that's all you need them to do, and you can get a victory over them. Andrew, want to take us on out of here, buddy?
I will. That was an awesome show. Thank you, everybody, for calling in today. If you guys are listening to this after we go off air, please make sure you text, text the word POWER to 206-737-7369 to get notified the very next
69,
time.
did you hear that? He said 69.
Yeah, too bad it wasn't like 420-6969 or something like that. Yeah.
What was your comment about the nose?
So that was from Bert Kreischer, I think. He was talking about, so when he was young.
And Nsima's real interested. He's like, and scared.
I'm just thinking of, there's something I'm thinking about. I don't know if it's going to go.
It's going that way. Oh yeah. So when he was young, before he ever like had sex or anything, he's just like, I can't wait to do 69. Like that sounds like it's going to be amazing. He's like, and then it happened, and like I didn't know where to put my nose. He's like, it was just really uncomfortable. He's like, so ever since then, it just was like, nope, no go on the 69.
Yeah. I don't think that's
not
not
awesome.
Yeah, it's not. I was thinking about that. That's,
of course you were.
Okay.
Everybody was. Anyways, 206-737-7369. You guys will get a text notification. So text POWER to that number. You guys will get a text notification the very next time that we do a live call-in show. So if you missed out, please do that so you guys get that notification. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bowles Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. And then also, Mark was just probably texting Stan efforting. We have the opportunity to literally just call anybody that we want. So if you guys have ideas for who you guys want to hear on a call-in show, and then you guys will have an opportunity to speak after them, let us know. Let us know in the comment section down below, wherever you're watching this, whether it be YouTube or Facebook. And then, of course, reach out on Instagram. If you guys have anybody that you want us to reach out to and talk to on the phone, and then maybe afterwards, like us as a whole group, you guys included, we can discuss what we heard from our guest. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
And Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark.
Dude, why are you so jacked? Why don't you just tell us?
Yeah.
Just fucking just let us know.
It's a safe zone.
Why you got to have secrets?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
you did tell us some stuff on the show, but I still feel like you're not. I don't know.
Yeah, you were like, I'm stressed. I'm not really getting sleep. And I was like, still waiting for the, I can see my body's not as jacked as it was. That's not the case.
It's just funny how crazy, stress can really mess your
Oh,
sleep
God.
up. That's all.
Mhm.
It's a killer.
Yeah. But no, there's no secrets, man.
I don't know, man.
There's no secrets.
Andrew, what do you think?
I don't know. He's wearing glasses.
I wish.
You wouldn't punch a man with glasses?
No, but maybe he's hiding something behind those frames.
Oh,
One thing I wish we could do is we could just give
his
everybody.
testosterone was pretty high, wasn't it?
It was
Extremely
surprisingly
high.
No, it was in the
Yeah, we're
normal
shocked.
range.
Normal range is not
It was in the
normal.
high end
Yeah.
of the normal range. It didn't say high; it said normal, but it was at the the highest end of normal.
You were
which I was
knocking,
surprised about.
You were knocking on High's door.
Yeah, I was knocking on highs.
Yeah, I would thought that you'd be really high in estrogen, just by the looks of him, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't look like you exude testosterone at all.
I mean,
Nope.
I was raised by women, so
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a secret.
I don't know.
Could be.
We gotta follow his program.
I don't know.
What is it?
I
Goats
can't.
or something that you said you eat? Goat milk?
He eats a whole goat head.
no. I have a few people that pump breast milk for me.
Oh,
I don't know if that's what I
Mm.
thought everybody did. I have a fridge full of breast milk at home. Not for
Mm.
not
First the creatine, now this.
But isn't that normal?
Is it Cambodian breast milk?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't necessarily want to. No, I'm not going to go.
He's gonna
that
end
deep,
up
but
telling us that he's on a gram of vitamin C a day, probably too.
1,500.
Oh,
But isn't that what you do?
I thought you were natty, bro.
God
But I
dang
thought
it.
that's what you do too.
I don't know.
This is why they say you should meet your heroes.
Wait, pause. But real
well, I'm not
talk.
claiming to be natural.
Neither of you guys do the breast milk thing.
I do almond
should.
milk from time to time, so maybe that explains my physique to yours.
Oh my gosh! I thought it was. I gotta go home.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.